Joel Embiid, what's the expectations of him facing the Miami Heat? Jimmy Butler, will playoff Jimmy show up? And do the Sixers have any answers for the Heat's zone defense? We'll talk about that more and more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. My name is Keith Pompey, and this is my right-hand man, John Mitchell. We are the co-host of Locked On 76ers. And guess what, y'all? We got a lot to talk about today. The big game, the play-in game, is tomorrow, Wednesday, 7 o'clock at the Wells Fargo Center. But right now, we got to talk about, like I said, Joel Embiid. Is he going to be able to go? We'll talk about that in the first segment. We'll break down playoff Jimmy, what makes him so good. In the second segment, do the Sixers still miss him? Yes, they do. And then thirdly, the keys to victory. There are two things that Miami does and normally gets the best of the Sixers. They rain threes on them, right? They just hit threes, wide open threes. And then they go in that 2-3 zone. They bring up the wings. And next thing you know, the Sixers can't get in passing lanes. It's crazy. It's tough. So we got a lot to talk about and a lot of things for the Sixers to do. But first, Mitch, Joel Embiid, yesterday at practice. Now, the funny thing about Joel, when I asked Nick Nurse, was he a full participant? Because there's a lot of times, Mitch, where Joel really don't practice. Mm-hmm. Like he's there, he may be watching the practice, doing some other things.
We're just talking about practice.
We're talking about we just right. So and then he'll go and he do his normal routine. He'd go into shooting. He'd do some other things. So the deal is, he was like, so Nick was like, yeah, Joel practiced today. So I came back and said, but was he a full participant in practice?
There is a difference.
Yeah, it is, right? And a lot of people don't know that. Like people will ask that question and they're not lying to you. They're like, oh, yeah, he practiced. Yeah, he practiced. But so Nick said he was a full participant. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, my question is, after he tweaked that knee, is there any concern that he might be a little timid or hesitant or lack some aggression moving forward? And they said no. He said he was in good spirits. He was aggressive. He was doing all types of things. And then Kelly Oubre was asked the same thing, and he basically said the same. So, I'm expecting Joel Embiid to come out. I do believe that he won't be 100%. I think that he'll probably favor that knee. But I do think that the Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo, is a good matchup for him. Right? Now, Bam is extremely athletic, but let's keep it 100. Bam is an old school power forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Undersized guy, 3-time All-Star. I'm giving him all the credit he deserves.
You know who he is? He's Dan Roundfield.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the kids don't know who he is.
Yeah, Dan who?
yeah. But Dan was an undersized guy. But yeah, that's who he is. Now, here's the thing. It's kind of like when you look at it, Embiid is what? 7'2". They say 7 feet, but he's actually 7'2".
Yeah.
They say he's 280. probably pushing 3, right? He
Yeah.
got to be, right? And you look at this dude, bam, he's 6'9", maybe a buck 30. I mean, 230, two
Mhm.
forty. You know what I mean? So that, like, you would say, like, Paul Reed is the type of guy that he would like to play against, people like
Right.
that, right?
Right.
So we'll see, but I'm expecting Joel. I'm expecting him to be a little hampered, a little bit, but I'm expecting him to power through this, and I'm expecting him to have a big game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since Joel's come back, he's averaged 30 points per game, 9.2 boards, 5.2 assists. He's even getting his hands on steals and 1.2 blocks per game in about a half an hour's worth of play. So he's looked very close to being in the form that had him headed towards would have been probably an unquestionable second MVP. Um, Bam, it's weird, man. He had that one stretch late in the season where all of a sudden he was making 3-pointers. And honestly, I guess because I'm old school, he's one of my favorite players. I like to see him play, but he is a guy, and he's an all-star level player.
Three
Um,
times, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he's a guy. Yeah, the Miami Heat. It's one thing about the Miami Heat, man. I think that they're the best organization in basketball. I think Denver is starting to knock on that door, but I think right now Miami is the best organization in basketball, and I think that this is Joel needs to put his stamp on this immediately. He sat out. I was actually glad to see him sit out the Brooklyn game, and for the result to come so easily without him in the lineup. Um, but now they're gonna, we've seen, like you said, man, there's playoff Jimmy Butler, and there's been playoff Joel. And they're Jekyll and Hyde, man. And the playoff Joel Embiid we've seen has not been to our liking. No, I don't. He's not lived up to anybody's expectations. Um, and yeah, he is hampered. Every time he comes down, you know, quasi awkwardly, you hold your breath. You know, so so I have high expectations for him in this game because this is the 76ers, to their credit, have been playing basketball. They've been playing playoff basketball for the last 3 weeks now. And part of that was without Joel Embiid. Credit to them for winning games that enabled them to nail down, home court advantage in the play-in tournament. So I'm looking forward to Joel having a big game, man. I'm kind of like, if you have to lay off of Bam and let him float out there, and if he wants to take some jumpers, I think that works in the 76ers benefit if he decides he wants to be jump shooting Bam. So we will see. We will see what Joel has. We will see if he comes out pumped up and fired up. Because his legacy that's his legacy. There's a big question mark on his legacy, and that question mark is the postseason.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That question mark is the postseason, and because his numbers have decreased. A
Yeah,
lot of that had to do with injuries as well.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
way teams are defending them. Other guys sometimes, unfortunately, he got a lot of flack um last summer by saying, "Look, we need some help." But the thing is, he's not like, yeah, he in game 7 against the Boston Celtics, he did make it easy for him to defend by staying at the 3-point line, just chucking up stuff and not being aggressive. But I do understand when he comes out and he says, like, we need some help, we need other guys to step up, because what happens is it makes it easier to
hmm
defend Joel a certain way, try to throw everybody at him when you swing that ball and guys are missing shots. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You can say, well, we're going to live with that. And if
yeah,
they ain't making it, we're going to keep surviving,
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but so I understand that. But at the same time, you are correct. Like, he got to step up in the playoffs, because we talk about legacy. And, yes, he's an MVP, 7-time All Star, Olympian, about to become an Olympian,
Yeah. All the accolades.
all the accolades. But right now, your legacy a lot of times is like, what have you done in the playoffs?
Right.
And right now, he has postseason struggles, and second round exits.
Yeah.
And that's his legacy.
Yeah.
Great individual, great regular season player, but a guy who can't stay healthy and can't get out the second round and struggled in the playoff.
Yeah, and we can say, hey, they found the help, and the help was right there on the roster because the emergence of Tyrese Maxey and the excision of James Harden from the roster has made them a better team. It's just made them a better team. So, but this next segment is brought to us by our sponsor, BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to tell how I really feel about something. You might be thinking about the same thing this week. Taxes time. It's tax time. It's time to get your taxes together. The deadline is here. Have you done that? That's something that can get under your skin, and it just adds another needle on top of the pile or another piece of straw on top of the haystack. So therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports teams, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, and suited to your schedule. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on-NBA. It's Locked On NFL's mock draft live. This on April 17th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Do it today.
Definitely do it today, folks. Now, here's the thing. The one thing that the Sixers are going to have to do tomorrow is try to limit Jimmy Butler. Like we talked about him, Joel Embiid tends to struggle in the postseason. Not struggle. I say his numbers tend to go down in the postseason. Jimmy Butler's numbers elevate in the postseason. And, Jimmy Butler he's in the last 4 seasons, he's led the Miami Heat to 2 NBA Finals appearances.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost in the bubble in 2020 to the Lakers, LeBron James and them, where he willed them to. And then last year they defeated, the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals to go on and play against the Denver Nuggets. Now, they lost both times, but it's those performances, because when you look at that roster, you don't see NBA Finals type of roster. Like, you don't see it. I mean, even you look at Jimmy Butler, as good as Jimmy is, his best attribute, you might say, is his grit.
It is.
Right? I mean, that's what it is. He's not a guy that you're saying, he makes commercials and he's getting paid, but he's not that typical, like, flashy, look fluid scoring. Is more him is like a high basketball IQ and a relentlessness.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Keith, he reminds me of his basketball game reminds me of DMX's rapping. You know what I mean? It's like it's rough, it's rough around the edges, but it's very, 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 very effective.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a basketball fan, you hate him because he's not on your team. When he's on your team, you love the cat. You love
Yeah.
him. But when he's not on your team, he puts a whooping on you, and then he looks the local news cameras in the eye, and he says stuff like, you know, you took Tobias Harris over me,
Yeah. Yeah.
directly to you. So, not, I mean, I hate to cut you off, man, but
No, you real.
that's who he is, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's Jimmy DMX Butler, and I hope he shows up, Big Bang Hank from the Sugar Hill Gang tonight, a little bit on the light side, because the Sixers don't need to see DMX tonight. I mean, on Wednesday night.
Nah. But the thing that really stood out to me, like when he was here, was his basketball IQ. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they won game one. No, take that back. They lost game one against the Brooklyn Nets in the first round of the playoff series. And Jimmy got off that game. He was,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say he had 32 points. He was phenomenal. But JJ Redick and Tobias struggled. But he was phenomenal because people forget he took over point guard duties.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Ben Simmons was listed, but Jimmy was the one running the show. So what happened is after that, Jimmy stopped looking for his shot and start dishing the ball, getting it to Tobias in great spots, start getting it to JJ and all that, got those two guys involved. And then they went on and won the series. Like I think they won the next 4 games. And it was that recognition, it was that IQ and that selflessness that let me know like this dude is smart as heck.
Yeah.
And also he's a great player, right? But again, like you say, DMX, it doesn't stand out. Like he is not Tupac at all.
Not at all.
Tupac, right?
All
But
eyes ain't on him till it matters.
yeah. He ain't Tupac, he ain't Snoop. But what he was is, and we talking old school rap here, y'all. But what he is he's straight DMX and real abrasive doing this, even down to like the way he deals with the media, like and everything. It's kind of like he doesn't care. But yeah, he's a great player. Now and the thing is, it's weird. You look at him. The thing that really gets me too is like here's a guy who was a 6-time All-Star. But it seems like he could care less about that.
Right.
He doesn't want to go to the All-Star game. He doesn't want to play. I believe there was even a time where he was fined for not playing. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like he just doesn't want to do it. So it's kind of like he doesn't want all that. All he wants is the playoffs to come so he could go in and play well and do what he has to do. So, they're going to have their hands full, man. And like it's going to have to be Kelly Oubre possibly, Tobias Harris. I mean, they're going to have their hands full because he's not going to stop. He's going to keep coming.
Yeah.
Keep coming. You better box out. You better do everything because the brother is coming.
Yeah. When he gets his jaws around your neck, you got to throw hot boiling water on him to get off, man. I know we keep going back to these DMX these DMX references, but that's who he is, man. He's one of my favorite players in the league. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think you can really, and that's what they're going to have to beat on Wednesday night. The guy who's going to come at them, and a guy whose teammates feed off of his aggression, and they feed off of his play. Tyler Hill start making a few jumpers, Duncan Robinson start hitting his threes, and everybody's going to have to rise to the occasion. For the 76ers too. It's a great, and you can just see the way ESPN and other outlets are talking about it. They're like, this is a marquee matchup in the play-in series, and it's primarily because you have, you've got great storylines. You've got Joel Embiid coming back from, and kudos to him for fighting hard and showing his dog and coming back and playing hard. And you got Jimmy Butler, man, who was a guy. You talk about the laissez-faire attitude that's pervasive in the NBA sometimes, but you don't see that coming out of Heat organization. You think Miami, you think somebody sitting on a beach with drinks with umbrellas sitting out of them, but no, they're rugged, and their leader is the very rugged Jimmy Butler. So they have to be, the Sixers have to be on their P's and Q's, man. It's not how do you feel. It doesn't matter how you feel anymore. The game is here. You're either gonna play, you're gonna put up, and it's not gonna be a walk in the park. I see the Sixers like 4.5-point favorite, but this is not going to be. If you think it's a walk in the park, don't watch. Don't watch. So but right now, I want to talk to you about Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. Lift your head up and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go. Now free on the App Store or Google Play. Monopoly Go. Go do it.
Yeah, I know, right? Monopoly Go. Now we got to see if the Sixers are going to go and figure out to play against those Miami Heat zones. See, now the thing about it is, it's funny, man, because not funny, but not for funny for the Sixers. But it just seems like whenever the Heat go to that zone, the
Yeah.
Sixers just have problems. And Nick Nurse was asked yesterday, like, well, why is it so tough? What makes it tough? And what he explained is what they do is they bring their wings up, like their wing players up high. And what that does is it prevents you from, the guys in the corner and all this other stuff. And there's a lot of talking and everything. And it's just hard to get shots off.
Yeah.
And that's something. And then when the Sixers do shoot, it's like it just seems like whenever, like the Sixers always seem like they have a lead against Miami and things are going well. And then all of a sudden they get into a wreck. And you always look up and you say, yep, I bet you it's that zone. And lo
Yeah.
and behold, it's that
Yeah.
zone, right? So those are things that the Sixers have to handle. They got to do a better job with that. And Mitch also, Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero
Mm-hmm.
and now you maybe have Scary Terry, like
Yeah.
all these guys, and Scary Terry is new to the fact. But no matter who they had, if it was no matter who the guy was, they always had a guy who could shoot threes, and next thing you know, he would get off against the Sixers. It's like
Yeah.
the perimeter defense was lacking against this team, and then also they couldn't figure out the zone. So in addition to dealing with Jimmy's relentlessness. So
Yeah.
if I'm the Sixers, those are the things that they gotta basically do. They gotta lock that down. They gotta get into that.
Yeah, and that's why they're giving Spo all that money, because he is, he is an extra added attraction. He amps them up with his smart coaching. He's been around that whole Pat Riley thing, and they're not going to make mistakes. They're going to throw that zone in 76ers, and like you said, that zone takes away that corner jumper, which the Buddy Hills and the Tobias Harris. That's something you see in their repertoire, and they run to that corner so you can't get that look. You're looking for that.
Mhm.
You just want to get a peek at the basket. They don't even give you a peek at the rim when they're in that zone. So, ideally, if they do that, I say, hey, man, this is where the old school comes out. Joel, get to the rim. Get to that rim, get to the free throw line. Get an out man, Bam on you and drag him to the rim. Get to the, get your 17, 18 free throws a game. You do that, and you'll win this game. You know,
Yeah.
you'll win this game. You know, because they are, like you said, they're going to take away. You're going to see the zone. It's inevitable. You're going to see it. You know, and they have struggled against it. You know,
Yeah. And what are your thoughts about the shooters though?
the Heat shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're good, man. I'm a Tyler Hero fan. I'm a Duncan Robinson fan, right? You know, and I'm rooting for. You know, I want the home team. Let's not get it twisted. Um, but and Hero can get his shot. He can get to the rim. Like you said, Scary Terry gives them a dimension that they didn't. I think that was a very, very, very good, almost like a Vinnie Johnson microwave type of pickup for them. You throw him out there and click, click, click. If other guys are struggling, he's not bashful. So I mean, they just do a very good job. The chemistry is good. They do a very good job of putting teams out on the floor. Um, and yeah, those guys can ring it up from deep. I mean, Hero and Duncan Robinson, those guys, they're quasi logo shooters. You know what I mean?
How you think Kyle Lowry is going to be in this game? I mean, because
Uh,
let's see,
uh,
Gary,
yeah,
they said you weren't good enough. We got to go get Scary.
yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Keith, man, because I do think. I think he's played very well for the 76ers. He's gone from being, the point on the ball to playing that decoy role and making teams confused. I think North Philly native Kyle Lowry. We had a lot of North Philly natives on the squad this year. I think the North Philly this North Philly native is going. I think he's going can have a huge role in this game. I can see him calling things out before they go into it at the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. I think Kyle Lowry is going to be huge to them, and it might not even show up in the box score. I think just having a guy like him on the roster who knows that organization, who was the extension of Spo when he was in Miami, is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it will too. I mean, at least for the motivation factor for one game.
Yeah,
You see that motivation stuff runs out when there's like a
it
series of
does.
games, you know what I mean? So for one game, my thing is, I think that Kyle. I mean, let's face it. I think that for a playoff series, you need a better ball. You need a ball handler. You need a floor general, guy that's going to get you in your sets and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I think that's where he's going to benefit him the most. Now I don't know how many minutes I'm giving him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because his shot hasn't really been falling. Now he's been a great leader,
Yeah.
but I don't know how many minutes I'm gonna give him just because of shots now. But do I want to close out with him? Yeah, no doubt. Do I
Mm-hmm.
want to like the start of the second half with him and all that? Yeah, all that. But and start him too. But I just don't know. And it's not a knock with him, and it's not saying I'm giving him a lot of minutes to get exposed. It's just that he's 38 years old right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and you want to keep him fresh throughout. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You just want to keep him fresh. And then there's other guys that you want to take advantage of. Like you got to get Buddy Hield in there. You got to get them threes knocked down. You got to do a lot of things.
It's a
So
big game. It's a big game for Buddy Hill, man.
yeah, it's a huge game for
Big game
Buddy.
for him. It's a money game for him.
Oh, money game,
It's a money
definitely,
game for him.
definitely. And he said he struggled in the in season tourney championship. That was the biggest game he had. So this is a game, first real. Cause I don't. I mean, I guess you could call that whatever the in season tourney, but this is the first real like postseason game ever of his career.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And it's still, even still, like I mean, I know there was in the past. You look at the games on TV, and there's certain teams who like basically, how should I say it? You got certain teams that think it's a regular season game, and the other teams that treat it like a playoff game. Well, they tend to be the teams that won. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The teams that brought that energy. But it's we'll see, and I'm expecting it to be a really competitive game. But I want to talk to y'all about um, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channel app, right? We want to thank y'all for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And for Keith, I'm Keith, and for my man John Mitchell, we would like to thank y'all for listening, and we want y'all to have a blessed day. Peace.
Be safe out there, people.